What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another video. Now, in today's video, we'll be covering Task 4 and Task 6 speaking questions. So the questions that are based on lectures. Take out your notebooks, grab your writing utensils, I once again don't know where mine is, and get ready to take some outstanding notes. Now, the star symbol is going to be the symbol that stands for our definition. So this symbol is going to be the word which, all right? Now, the little box here is to remind us what the professor talked about. In this case, the professor will give us two examples, but pretend we don't know that yet. 1 and 2 are for the two sections in the lecture because most lectures have two different sections, even if it was only about one experiment or one example. But anyways, there's the reading passage that we'll be looking at today. The topic is entertainment merchandising. Now, let's look for the topic word first and foremost in the reading passage because we don't want to be focusing on sentences that don't have information that's pertinent to what we're looking for, right? So let's look for the topic first. Now, I see that the topic is given to us at the end of the first sentence, but that's always dangerous because that's a sign that we will probably have to paraphrase the sentence quite a bit. Now, luckily for us, the second sentence starts with the topic, entertainment merchandising. So let's see if we can copy it. Entertainment merchandising, which is a form of marketing in which, okay, I'm not happy with that because that sentence is making me repeat the word which twice very close to each other. So I'm going to change in which to a form of marketing that uses the brand or image from one product to sell another. So there's my definition. Now, if you were able to find that sentence relatively quickly, then you would have, 37 or maybe 35 seconds just focusing and zoning in on that single sentence to figure out the best definition possible. So it's easy. You would have also been able to do this within 45 or 50 seconds with the proper guidance. All right, we're done with the reading passage. Let's listen to the lecture.
Okay, so I've actually got a few different examples of this. You know, when I was a kid, a character named Action Hero was really popular with my friends and me. We would always watch the Action Hero program on television every week and play games, pretending that we were as strong and powerful as he was. Then pretty soon we began seeing these small Action Hero figures in all the stores. And well, we all just had to have them. I mean, we'd been watching the television show for so long that it seemed only natural to want to own the toys, too. Well, I finally grew up and left the Action Hero television program and toys behind. But now I have a 7-year-old daughter who watches television a lot and also likes to play with her toys. And lately, her favorite toy is a cute little baby doll with a big round face and lots of curly hair named Rosa. All my daughter's friends have Rosa dolls too, and they enjoy going to each other's houses to play with them. Then a few weeks ago, my daughter came running up to me all excited because she had just heard there was going to be a new television program on every week with the doll Rosa as the main character. So naturally, she and all her friends have begun watching the show, and it's already very popular as the toy doll.
All right, now we got pretty lucky in this lecture because as soon as the lecture started, the professor confessed and revealed to us what he was going to cover. I think he said something like, there are several examples of this, so right away, you should have realized that it's plural and not singular. So the first impression and your last impression, the beginning and ending sentences of your response, should now be flawless. Okay, now in the first example, to begin with, when the professor was a kid, a character named Action Hero was very popular. Subsequently, he and his friends always watched programs and played games about this character. Needless to say, when they saw action figures of this character in the store or in stores, they all wanted to own one too, or as well. Okay, in addition to this, the professor's 7-year-old daughter really loves to play with a doll named Rosa. Now, I started taking notes on when his daughter heard that there would be a new TV show with Rosa as the main character. I started writing it down, but I decided to cross it out because I realized that putting this detail over here would have made my life much more convenient. So what I'm saying is, even if you start taking notes on something that you would like to say and that's fairly easy for you to organize, if the professor doesn't allow you to connect that information with whatever that's following, think about taking some pieces of that information out and salvaging something else for something later, okay? Because that could happen. What I'm saying is, don't panic. The listening always gives you several chances, all right? Okay, so over here, I'm gonna say, all in all, his daughter and her friends began watching a new TV show with Rosa as the main character, which is already very popular with the audiences or with young girls. All right, so that's what I'm gonna say for the second example. Let's listen to how I put it all together in my sample response. In the lecture, the professor elaborated on a couple of different examples to explain the concept of entertainment merchandising. To begin with, when the professor was a kid, a character named Action Hero was incredibly popular. Subsequently, he and his friends always watched programs and played games about Action Hero. Needless to say, when they saw action figures of this character in the store, they all wanted to own one as well. In addition to this, the professor's 7-year-old daughter really loves to play with a doll named Rosa. Consequently, she and her friends began watching a new TV show with Rosa as the main character, which is already very popular with the audiences. To sum up, these were two perfect examples of entertainment merchandising, which is a form of marketing that uses the brand and image from one product to sell another, given by the professor in the lecture. All right, so the trick is to forget about the 60 seconds of time limit. Forget about that because you don't want the stopwatch or the given amount of time to freak you out. Don't be the one who psychs yourself out. Please take it easy. Our mission is to just get through the listening's information within 60 seconds. So if you don't have any time to say the ending statement or even the definition, don't feel bad because let's be honest here. If you were able to successfully spend, let's say, 54 seconds of the 60 seconds of speaking time fluently on just the beginning sentence and the lecture's information, no one in their right mind will give you point deductions because objectively speaking, mathematically speaking, statistically speaking, as long as your speaking was fluent and cohesive, you will be deemed a good speaker. All right? Okay, so that's the mindset that you want to be in. Don't push yourself from the beginning to say everything, even including the definition, because if that's your mindset, you're always going to be pushing yourself a little bit too hard, speaking a little bit too fast, and making too many silly mistakes. All right? Okay, now let's move on to task 6.
Okay, we generally assume that babies can feel only very basic emotions like happiness or anger. That is, that babies just react to things that happen directly to them. However, some new research is suggesting that babies may be able to feel concern for others, to have empathy for others. Now, empathy is a complex emotion. It involves a baby relating to someone else's emotions, not just reacting to things happening directly to them. Let's talk about an experiment that may show that babies could be capable of feeling empathy. Okay, for the first part of the experiment, we've always known that babies start to cry when they hear other babies crying, right? One baby in a room starts crying and all the rest join in. We've always assumed that the other babies cried because they were reacting to the noise of the crying, that the noise itself was distressing. So, in the experiment, researchers played a tape recording, a tape of babies crying, to another baby. And sure enough, the baby started crying when he heard the sound of other babies crying. This was no surprise, of course, and the researchers assumed that the baby cried because of the noise. But the next part of the experiment was surprising. The researchers played the baby a tape of his own crying. Now, it was just as noisy, so the researchers expected him to cry. However, this time, the baby did not cry. He wasn't upset by the sound of his own crying. Why not? Well, maybe it wasn't the noise that had made him cry before when he heard other babies crying. In fact, maybe noise had nothing to do with it. It could be that the baby felt empathy for the other babies, and that was why he got upset when he heard them crying. The researchers concluded that it is indeed possible that babies feel empathy, concern for others.
All right, now this is another really good example of a lecturer and a professor who is taking advantage of the amount of time that he or she is given. This lecture is about 120 seconds long, which is twice the amount of time that we have to summarize everything that we heard. So this is a clear sign that you have no choice but to sacrifice a ton of information that was just given to you, okay? Now, in the beginning sentence and the ending statement, I'm gonna say how babies are able to have empathy for others. You could have chosen to say feel instead of have, they're both fine. Now, I'm gonna start summarizing the lecture's information from this detail right here. To begin with, in an experiment, researchers played a tape recording of babies crying to another baby, or to a baby. Therefore, this baby started crying because of the noise, which was not surprising. The which was not surprising is not written down here, so it's something that's optional. You don't have to mention that. However, so in this situation, we're going to ignore furthermore. However, when the researchers played a tape of his own crying, this baby did not cry since he was not upset by the sound of his own voice. In other words, noise had nothing to do with why he cried, because he actually felt empathy for the other babies. Now, over here, we're gonna say over here, first here, we're gonna say the researchers because we're talking about specifically the researchers that were in this experiment, okay? So even though it's in the plural form, you're gonna have to say the researchers because they're specific. They're the researchers that I and the listener, or you guys know of, okay? Now, over here, we're gonna say for the other babies, because in this situation, we're gonna be implying that they're the babies from the tape recording in the first step, okay? Alrighty, now let's listen to my sample response. The professor gave a lecture about how babies are able to have empathy for others. To begin with, in an experiment, researchers played a tape recording of babies crying to a baby. Therefore, this baby started crying because of the noise, which was not surprising at all. However, when the researchers played a tape of his own crying, this baby did not cry, simply due to the fact that he was not upset by the sound of his own voice. In other words, noise actually had nothing to do with why the baby cried, because he actually felt empathy for the other babies. In summation, this was how babies are actually able to have empathy for others, which was illustrated by an experiment conducted on a baby listening to different tape recordings given by the professor in the lecture. Thank you for your time and consideration. All right, now in this sample response, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sentences, that's it. Only 4 complete sentences, albeit the length of each sentence, specifically this, that, and this. So 3 sentences are quite lengthy. They're pretty extensive, which is why I'm able to only have about 2 seconds left when I'm done saying everything that I want to say. Now, keep in mind that my speaking fluency, my speaking pace is always going to be a little bit faster than yours. And at the real test, there is no guarantee that you will be able to get through this amount of information as fluidly and as fluently as I just did. So guess what? This is the perfect quantity of information for most of you guys to get through and to deal with the 60 seconds of preparation time. Don't forget about that, okay? The greedier you get, the more difficult organizing the listening's information becomes. All right? Okay. Those are my sample responses for these speaking questions. If you enjoyed the sample responses, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you still have not done so, Share the content with your close friends and family members if they need the extra assistance. But most importantly, if you are a self-disciplined and dedicated person, reach out to me about my tutoring services. Let's get the score that you need and deserve as quickly as possible while improving your English fluency as much as possible. Now, the next video will be on TOEFL writing, so feel free to leave any topics that you want me to personally cover in the next video. Peace out.